welcome to Difficult Podcasters. What's up? My name is Ronnie Jr. I'm here with the so beautifully talented, but also so gorgeous Kellie. What's up, Kellie? I love your shirts, may I say?
Why, thank you. My lovely Viridian Rose shirt. Very, very cute. I love it. I'm loving their stuff. Lots of cute stuff. So don't forget to check out their website because, they're helping power this little podcast we're doing, all this difficult fun.
Yeah, I feel like every time within scheduling or within our own schedules and technical, like it's always kind of a difficult episode, but like it almost feels like, 3, 2, 1, go type of deal. And we managed to make it work, but it's like a little chaotic before and not as much after, but you get what I'm saying. But I'm glad episode 4 was fun. I want to know if you've had any difficult moments, but before I just did want to tell you, I was chatting with a friend who had never seen Difficult People, started watching it because they wanted to see our podcast. But the reaction was interesting because this person is telling me, I watched the show, but more so to see what you guys are going to recap, which is great. We like that too. But they said that the characters are so unlikable. And I says, really? I thought the characters were so relatable. So what does that say about me, Ronnie?
Say about both of us.
No, they loved. I'm sure you are the most lovable. What are you talking about? But with that being said, I am going to vow to maybe try to be less complainatory. What is complain past tense?
Less of a complainer?
Less of a complainer. More of a participator, less of a complainer. Anyways, that's what I'm going to intend to do. But this episode gave me a lot to really sink my teeth into. So I don't know where I'm going to go. Tell me about you. What's up, Kel?
Well, everything's going good. I've got my difficult stuff going on, you guys, I told you about my broken arm and it's getting a little better. I can kind of move it around, and I've got my little 4-year-old niece who's being my what do you call it,
nurse or physical therapist? Yes,
my physical therapist. She's giving me all these little exercises she wants me to do to work out my arm.
It looks like a TikTok dance actually, but okay.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's where she's probably getting her ideas from. But it's it's hilarious. But she's super cute. She's helping me out. It's still feels a little, still can't fully straighten it out, but we're working it out, figuring it out. It's so annoying, but I'm trying to push through it. And
any physical impairment, it's annoying. So we're glad that you've done the show 4 episodes already. This is our 5th. And you've been cool. We didn't know the wiser, but we do know you're in a little bit of pain, but you're rocking with us, which is nice. And also, it's really good to have family, your niece, support you, because last week's episode, we kind of tore down family in general. I mean, it's not like you said anything bad about your family. I know I didn't say anything bad about my family, but I think you asked me a question like, how are you? And I was like, I hate the Dodgers and my family loves the Dodgers. So I vowed to not be so grumpy this week, but I'm not sure if I can do it. We'll see.
It's fine. It's a difficult podcasters. We're recapping difficult people. So of course you're going to get the difficult side of our lives right now because it's timely. It matches. It goes.
That's right. That's right. And we have you're going to love this, ViridianRoad.com sponsoring our show. We have a new segment. I'm just going to roll it and then we'll talk. It is called Necessary Difficulties. Okay. I'll say it again. Unnecessary difficulties. This is Grant's Rants. Here we go.
Okay, as a new New Yorker, these things confuse the hell out of me. A former tenant in my apartment sent a DVD in the mail through Netflix that I needed to resend. And I went to this box to try to put it in. Where is the hole? Now I know what the purpose of it is. But seriously, this threw me and I have no patience.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. A little piss and vinegar, which we like. Kellie, that is Grant's Rants. He has a podcast called Grant's Rants Hollywood Talk, even though he's doing it out of New York City now. And it was funny because him and I were talking about our podcast. And I know on his podcast, yes, it covers a lot of pop culture, but he gives it to you and he gives it to you good. So it just made a perfect synergy for our first ever segment in what did I call it? Unnecessary difficulties. We'll see if it lasts.
I love it because, you walk out in the world and you always, I don't know who doesn't see this on a regular basis, but there's always something that is made harder than it needs to be. So it's definitely an unnecessary difficulty, whatever it may be. But I guarantee, like, if you didn't notice it before, you're going to notice it now.
That's right. That's right. That is how our show is. Unnecessary difficulties. We see them all the time. And it was great for our first segment. But first, can you take it away with our episode recap for episode number 5?
Yes, the children's menu. I love this because I am such a picky eater, so I totally feel Julie's pain.
Picky like fancy, or picky like you also don't mind like a less enhanced Arthur type meal.
Picky as in specifically picky, like textures, smells, certain things. Like my pickiness knows no bounds. It's just weird. So I'm not quite as extreme as Julie is, but I definitely understand it. And having a lot of chef friends in LA and restaurateurs and all of that, my palate has definitely expanded, and I've become more willing to try new things and like new things. But I won't touch a mushroom to save my life. I can't.
What? That's like one of the principal best foods to eat. Like a raw mushroom tastes great, Kelly. You would need like a sauteed, like really like top of the line.
Like none. I will
not at all.
Nothing. And to find out, I'm actually allergic now. So like I break out in hives if I even touch
bullshit. You're just making that up as we speak. Really? Are you?
Yes. And I found out that most things you don't like, it's probably because you have some sort of allergy to it. It could be mild or what, but that's the reason your body doesn't like it. But yeah, but no, I legit, like, the only mushroom type thing I can handle is like truffle oil or like, truffle fries, things like that. But I will get a rash if I eat. It's not like a deathly allergy, but
still, is there anything else that people enjoy and you, for some reason, are like, no, I don't like it? Is there some like common thing?
I might get like hate mail for this one.
You're not going to get written up. We got 6 listeners. Like, we're going to be okay.
I'm not a huge Chinese food fan, like Asian food. Like I'm very specific about it. There's like certain spices and certain seasonings that I just can't deal with the smell. But it's interesting because I love sushi. Like I like sashimi. I like certain things, but it just depends on what it is.
Oh, got it.
In general, like if I'll walk into a restaurant and this spices and like all that are real heavy in the air. Like I can't do it.
Yeah.
But that's how my pickiness goes. It's real odd. It's like I said, smells, textures, like things like that. The way stuff looks. Like I won't eat ribs because I don't like the way they look on the rack.
Do you like eating? Oh, really? That OCD kicking in. Okay. We'll talk about things we don't do based on how something looks, because I've been there too. But I did want to say, yes, children's menu. I personally am not a big foodie at all, which is crazy because it's like, oh my gosh, I've of course been way overweight, and also where I'm struggling now, and also slim, like a little bit of everything, right? But even throughout each stage, I've never been like a foodie. So if if whatever's going on, it's based on bad sleep or hormonal imbalances.
But even the cities you live in with such great food.
I swear I'm okay. So if when people from California ask me like, oh, what's the best like pizza place in New York, this, that, another, I'm always like, I am an aesthetics person, I suppose. So I'm like, let me take you to the neighborhoods that is the cutest. We're gonna see the cutest people, the sexy attire, like all that's
the things that matter. Food doesn't matter, right?
I swear to you, I'm not. This is literally how I am. Okay, let's play the game. Dessert, and we'll get to the show. Deserted Island. What meals do you take with you? I'm gonna give you a couple of mine, and then you could just jump in. I'm going with salmon. Right off the bat, salmon's coming with me. Salmon, avocado's coming with me. And if I had to choose one more, but it had to be bold just to get everyone to be like, wow, he chose that as his third choice. Well, it's the aphrodisiac, and I like the oyster. I love an oyster, and I don't like it with anything. I don't need anything. No salt. Just give me the lemon and let me, let this lonely mouth do what it's supposed to.
Just had oysters for the first time like this year.
You barely. So what'd you think?
I told you like the way stuff looks and the texture and like all that. Like I just could never do it. And I was finally convinced, just close your eyes and do it. And it was terrible.
There's other things we've closed our eyes and have just done, but that is episode 36, which is in the future. Children's menu. Let's get back to the food. I think it was relatable that Julie had these, and it also was no surprise. Like this is Julie a T,
Absolutely. Well, and the episode opens that, Billy's in the restaurant and he's, taking the order of, an older couple and they're asking questions. And he's like, yeah, I don't know, but those are really fun questions.
The sarcasm. I love it. The
Julie
sarcasm.
Walks in and he just like abandons his table because he's a terrible waiter. So he goes to chit chat with Julie and they start their little banter. And I like that the couple's like, hello, can we get some help? And he's like, yeah, I'll be right there.
I'll be right there.
Down.
Well, you knew he'd be bad if he was bad to the Rachel Dratch character in episode 1. You knew this was just how he did. I think he did another one that was really funny on the Piñata, I think episode it was, where it was like, asymmetrical haircut, thumb ring, lives with a roommate. There was no hints. Like his sarcasm in the restaurant is great. And what I love about it is Denise just hates him. Oh, Denise.
No, she really does.
Mm.
And I love that anytime we see Matthew, he is just tearing him down. And it's just funny. Like, it doesn't even mean to. It just happens. It's just a natural thing for that character to do it. And, we find out he is about to go to a meeting for a possible new agent, which is what a better thing to throw in Billy's face, right?
Well, especially after recently Billy loses his agent to a weird circumstance.
And then, of course, Denise is his biggest cheerleader. So she's driving him to the meeting and they take off and, Julie gets into YouTube. So she's talking about this girl who has like 7 million YouTube subscribers. And
Sissy Donato.
Sissy Donato.
Damn Sissy Donato.
One of the first big YouTube stars, because this is right as the YouTube star popularity was coming to fruition, right? So it turns out that this little girl is someone that Julie used to babysit. And I love Billy's thing is like, you don't even like kids. And she's like, yeah, case in point. This is the reason why.
Yes. It was this, bro.
It was this one. It's all her fault. And we see a clip of Sissy's YouTube account. And she does all these like crazy random videos things. She's just sitting in her room and 3 million views, 5 million views, 7 million views. And it just, goes on. And of course it gets under their skin because they're like, what are you doing? No talent, just, getting all this attention and getting all these things. And it's, just another thing to be kind of grumpy about. Especially
I like
kids used to babysit.
Right. And it's just so different. It's like what Julie and Billy are doing is not what Sissy Donato, played by Esther Politsky, I hope I said that correctly, who is funny in her own right. So does very well. She's like on a couple podcasts. I feel like her in character, I like a little bit more, if I'm being honest. I feel like in podcasts, she's still being like her, the actress Esther. She's being very like, I'm not really trying. It's just like, are you going to keep doing that at 30 and then you're going to do it at 40? Like, I wonder. Like, I think her Instagram is actually like Esther Monster. I'm like, oh, shocking, Esther Monster. Like, so I like her in the character. Does it sound like I'm coming for the actress now? I just but no, these tangents, what's wrong with me? I'm just like, the reason I say that,
Billy
I think
Jr.
No, it's just, my name is Ronnie Jr. Doggone it. So it's just it gets me like, okay, so here it is. When I was a child, like I was sitting at the in the restroom with the toilet paper roll, and I would look at the mirror and I would do a countdown like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I would be like live, like hosting like a late night show. So I will say that it always bums me out. Now, this is not necessarily the Sissy Donato character, but it was a little Sissy meets Esther. They're different, but they still feel the same sometimes. And Esther is talented, but I get a cringe. I'm just giving you what I feel. I get a cringe Wasn't I not going to complain this episode? I get a cringe. I get a cringe because the new generation, I suppose, they get to be very like chill about it. Like, I don't really care. Like, if it happens, like it happens.
It's
And
totally whatever.
and the reality is, if you did it back in my day, you had to actually like really like grind it out, and you had to like network, meet people. Now it really is like the YouTube, the phone, et cetera, et cetera. And I understand that we're on YouTube now, but let me tell you, it took a long time to get here. I was not into this shit at all. I was like, oh, excuse me. But so the character did make me laugh. I'll leave it at that. I have always had a hard time with anyone who's pursuing something and them being so chill about it. And it's like, if it happens, it happens. Let me tell you something.
You just have to decide to be successful.
Yeah, did you? Mind you, I haven't slept in a long time, so I'm doing my best.
Apartment. And well, first, okay, let me backtrack a little bit. Sorry, first. So they're at Billy's restaurant, and they're sitting in Billy's restaurant, but they're hungry. And Julie's complaining about the food. She's like, Denise's restaurant always has such complicated food. Like, why can't we just, have some things that are simple? Like, chicken should just be like chicken fingers. Like, why does it have to get more complicated than that? So they go to another restaurant, and Julie's trying to order off of the kids menu, and the waiter won't let her. It's 12, for 12 and under. And she's like, well, don't you think that's not fair? And his response is priceless, because he's like, well, in my country, I was a surgeon.
Oh yeah. That was
just like, it kind of like, and she has a lot of those moments where it's those, oh, woe is me. And then she gets a real big dose of reality that just kind of shuts her up real quick. And then she's like, okay. As
I said, totally relatable. No, I'm kidding. It was good that she got that wake up call too, though. She needed that, and she was quiet. She was quiet after that, which was nice.
Yeah. She's like, we'll tip him.
Yeah. Make sure you tip him.
So it's like, get this idea, and they start talking about the children's menu, like where they just take over the kitchen, because we find out Denise is going to the Hamptons and leaving Billy in charge, which is a very interesting choice, but I guess there's no other real option. So she's got to leave Billy in charge, and he wants to kind of take over the menu and just serve basically kids' food at adult prices. So
yeah, well, because also the almost like the scam of the prices too, which you see all the time. New York is no exception to that. Something dressed up real fancy, and it's like, oh, suddenly it's $15 when it's half a cup of coffee. But it happens.
Right. Yeah. So that's what they're trying to do, is take advantage of that. Because get a grilled cheese and charge $16 for it, but they're not even wanting to make it the fancy grilled cheese. They want to just be a regular grilled cheese for like $16. Just like taking those, the hot dog, the pizza, the chicken fingers, the regular straight up simple kids food, and turning it into a major profit for adults. But that's what they're thinking, right? That you have a children's menu, you call a restaurant the children's menu, but only adults will come, because this is in their head, which I think is so funny, because that's what Julie wants, kids food. She just wants to eat kids food. She doesn't, Arthur's at the house making like radicchio with cloves, and she's like, no.
Just dumb it down. Yeah. And he's a foodie too. Like Arthur happens to be a foodie.
Yes.
And he follows the blogs, which it's like the least favorite thing that Julie likes about him. So you have that dynamic going. You're right. She has this naive energy about like, oh well, duh, everyone will be into this. And you know what? She might be right. There might be some people that are into it. You hit a certain pocket in Brooklyn, it might be a cool thing, put it next to Roberta's, like maybe, I suppose it could work. So maybe Julie's not that unsharp. She might be onto something. Maybe Julie's ahead of the game. Let's just
I mean, maybe, but you also got to think on the other side of the coin. If you call someplace the children's menu, children will show up.
Yeah, and just because she likes her dogs does not mean she likes kids too. Like, why are we assuming the same thing?
I know. Well, and then as they're talking about doing that, plus trying to figure out how to get more attention to themselves, especially now that this kid has got, is YouTube famous. And she's really trying to see, well, what can I do for myself to, you know, put myself in that same category? So they're coming up with all these different ideas, and, you know, they want to do something similar to Billy suggests something similar to Drunk History.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The Comedy Central series. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she's like, okay, well, I'll do Drunk Science. And
not a bad idea. And they all said the same thing.
Idea. Not a bad idea if it had been executed a little different, and if maybe there was a little bit more science talk.
There was more of the drunk, less the science talk. Yeah.
But doing it with the dogs was genius. I thought it could have been so good had the execution been a little different, but it was still funny.
I thought so too. Those were her basset hounds, right? I thought it was, and also like comparative to this other dumb shit that goes viral, like why would that not go viral? That's the big complaint that I have. Again, I'm gonna slow it down because I don't want to talk complaining in a Tory nature. How do you say that? Do we gotta how do you I'm trying to say complaining, but like a multiple version, very complaint. Like if you say compliment, right? And you want to be complimentary. Complimentary. Well, no, isn't that giving something for free? Oh God, it's just failing at the wheels are falling, and we're the wheels. Okay, so yeah, but I thought it was funny. I thought it was no less like, it wasn't boring or bad. And you know, if Sissy could have a video that goes viral, that's the weirdest thing though. Like to want to go viral. I remember when that culture shifted. I mean, honestly, like. I think I remember when YouTube hit, it was like 2005. So there's always been these different incarnations of like people coming to it. There was the time where no one took it seriously. And then only like the YouTubers did. And, you know, even 2015 isn't what it is in 2021, you know?
Right.
Yeah, it's just, it's interesting that you, like Julie being such a talent, has to sort of compete with the lower level. You know, that's not what she ever wanted to do. So that's like a hard competition, I think.
Definitely. And I think the whole concept of social media fame is a whole other animal and beast. You know, as a publicist and coming from, you know, a different side of talent and entertainment, when that was first coming into play in the world of, you know, when you're looking for talent to do things, or, you know, you're casting for things or whatever you're doing, to have that new pool of people that aren't really, you know, necessarily trained at anything specific. They're not polished in any way. There's no real kind of structure to what they're doing. It's just kind of like a showcase of whatever your talent is, showcasing it however you choose to show it, which is interesting and very cool on one level. But then on another level, it's also kind of like a shortcut to something.
Well, so and it allows them to say sentences like, I don't know why I'm here. Like, I'm at the red carpet, but like, it doesn't really matter. Well, yeah, I would say it probably doesn't. If you went viral from like eating some nachos, like, and the chair fell, yeah, you probably shouldn't be like walking next to George Clooney. Like, I mean, I get it. It's
like, that's the thing though, right? Because everything is subjective. Like art is subjective. So it doesn't necessarily make them less talented because they found the faster way to get up the ladder.
But I'm
just, I'm okay. Saying, I don't agree with like the way that is, but it's another opportunity. It's another avenue. And it does take a lot of time and effort and patience to put all of that kind of stuff together and to actually do it. So I'm not, I'm kind of like in the middle about it.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, I see the benefit. I see and like I said, everything's subjective. So something that works for me might not necessarily work for you. It's just like a painting. You know, it can sell at one place for $1 million and you can buy something similar at a flea market for $2. Like, it's all subjective.
That's true. That is a good point. I think the criticalness became obsolete, which that's what I didn't like about it. Back in the days of performing or doing comedy or whatever it was that you did, there was at least a little bit of critical acclaim that you would sort of aim for, and then that sort of got overshadowed with like, but where are the numbers? That's all I'm saying. So I guess I'm taking your point, but I'm also like, it does frustrate me. And as an example, on the, it was always shocking, when there was the big rapper that we'd gotten real busy with all of the shenanigans, and like a Nicki Minaj would co-sign and do a music video with him, and 50 Cent would do a music video with him. To me, it's just like, you are top tier. I understand there's this whole thing of like, oh, well, let's not be old heads and dismiss what's happening within the young. But at the same time, you don't necessarily need to validate it. But why do they do it? Because someone like Nicki Minaj, maybe at that time, is sort of needing like a push back up. So that is where the art gets all thrown off. So yes, art is subjective, but it gets really thrown off when it's like I'll be honest with you, like, Julie can't learn anything from Sissy Donato. She just can't do it. But in theory, she can, like.
I mean, the only thing that she can learn is focus, right? Because if her mom's telling her she's kind of all over the place.
Now we got a hole. Yeah.
She's not focused on one thing and trying to perfect it. Well, that's what this kid did. She took one thing. She wanted to sit in her room and make videos. That's what she does. She sits in her room. She makes videos. And she got herself from point A to point Z a lot faster, right? So, but it's also kind of like the way I felt personally in my business when reality TV really started.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That's not necessarily like trained actors in the sense that we're used to, as far as like, it's award season right now. So it's, to be at those tables with those caliber of people that have trained and done theater and done all of these things. And now all of a sudden you're getting invited to the same parties and you run in the same circles because you let a camera chase you around and go to the bathroom with you. Like, again, it's all subjective and what people find entertaining, right?
Yeah.
So it's still another shortcut into that place. But different people that have used that as a platform to get themselves in the ranks and then go to study and then do the legwork and then put themselves in movies. There are a couple of those.
Oh yeah.
That started out and, like on The Real World or something. And now they're like, or even Ryan Gosling on freaking Mickey Mouse Club. And that was essentially a variety show.
Sure. A platform is going to be a platform.
Right. So it's just kind of like, how as an audience we choose to embrace it, which is not necessarily, the favorite thing of the entertainer or of everyone.
Yeah, I think about that a lot, though. I think about often I think of like the reality, like it sucks because yes, and I watch Housewives, right? But then I mean, I feel like I always at the back of my head do have the respect for like how frustrating that is for everything that goes on as far as like a legitimate trained actor sort of having to compete with spaces with the non-talent. No one's negating the hard work, but a non-talented reality person. So I just thought this was like a little bit of that same equivalent to a degree.
It definitely is. And there is that correlation there. And it's got to be so much more frustrating too with Julie's mom, with Marilyn saying, oh, you can learn something from this kid. And it's like, really, that's how much which it's, like I said, the only real pointer you can get is to focus. And her mom basically tells her as such, is she's too all over the place. She changes her mind every day about what she wants her focus to be, right?
Which is true.
If you got 10, your hands in 10 different fires, something's going to burn. You're not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to actually cultivate all of those things. So you do essentially need to focus on one thing. And it's, she seems a little bit lazy. So it kind of is like the easiest thing.
True. And something new. That's another thing too. Anytime I've hit a creative roadblock, I'm like, what can I do that's different? Because if you are doing the same thing, like they're trying to do their live shows and things aren't really working, like they're still going to pursue it because that's what their love and their passion is. But at the same time, this is a new outlet, I guess, basically. I did love the Marilyn and Great Neck with the country club gals. There was a
stress.
Yeah, there was a lot of I felt stressed when she said it, or not stressed. I felt relief, but also I love that there was a bunch of Phyllis's. I like that asinine stuff these women were saying, but it was it was great for TV. And
there are a lot of, like, as we say in today's society, Karens.
Oh
They
yeah,
were called
lots of
Phyllis.
Karen. Yeah, Phyllis, i.e. Karen for sure. And it also led to the thing that I keep telling you about, which I enjoy. But she goes, "My daughter's in comedy, which is why I don't have any grandkids." You
Yeah,
gotta
but she
laugh.
also says technically,
Oh,
technically
technically,
she's a
yeah,
comedian.
yeah. Well, it's basically like an internship because she has not got paid in a very long time.
And then she runs into
So it was Carol, Kathy, and Jimmy,
yeah,
of course. Which
yes.
what a great guest star again,
Oh,
another
love
great
her.
guest star. And yeah, it put Julie in an awkward situation because Julie was like, "Okay, so this is what my mom's telling me," and Marilyn just insists. She just insists, like, "Oh, maybe you could talk with Sissy." And Julie's like, "You could like the way Julie's face was. It was that frustration."
She's like mortified, and then she's like, "Oh, I'm sure she can carve out some time for you." And it's just it's so insulting in a sense for her mother to do that. And and again, I think she means well. She just doesn't get what she doesn't know. What she doesn't know. She doesn't get what she doesn't get, and therefore she does more kind of more emotional harm than helping, I think. And being a therapist, she should know better.
She should know better. You're right. That's the redeeming quality about Marilyn in that regard, is that Marilyn really is just seeing an opportunity. And if you didn't study it yourself, like you're just like, well, this has got to help my daughter. So you're right. That was such a redeeming Marilyn inquiry, but it just didn't match up to what Julie like wanted to. And it puts Julie in that situation of like, well, what can I learn? What would I even ask this girl? It's like, it's really, we do two different things. And you're right. Going to the conversation we said earlier, I do knock sometimes all of this, youngish stuff. And again, I have anyone who knows my career or whatever, it's like I resisted doing any sort of YouTube for the longest because I was like, that is not my journey. Now it's sort of shifted where like it's more about an assemblage of work and it makes sense. You choose the right project. Things have really sort of changed in a good way. But it's that weird thing where like the young person has so much power, which is fine. I think we were all 20 at one point. The only thing is when you were 20, when I was 20, and you walked into a room and you were like, I'm going to be the best. The weird thing now is the kids now can do that. Before you had that attitude, you did I'm not going to negate that. You like the first radio station I walked into, I was like, well, I think it was Rick Dees was the radio show host at the time, but like it was in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm about to be something, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, to me, it feels very lopsided now because now you could be 20 and you could suddenly zoom past everybody, like cut in line. Like they said, you could cut in line.
Right.
And well, that's odd. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is because of the sense of entitlement that these kids carry with it. And that I believe is the problem, is not appreciating the opportunity that you've been given and think that it's owed to you and that it's expected, and then you walk into rooms with that attitude. And that's the problem I have with it. It's like, I want everyone to, hey, if you've got the time, the patience, and all of this, that you can do that for yourself, and you're gonna live your life on Instagram and make sure that the world thinks you live one way and you got the patience for that. Hey, more power to you. But when you go into a meeting and you're talking with seasoned professionals, don't be arrogant. Know your, kind of read the room, understand what you're doing, do your research, because you're not like, you're not the biggest thing to hit the world. And to have that attitude going in is unfortunate. And I think our society is allowing for that right now. And a friend of mine is a professional photographer, and he had just posted a similar anecdote about this. He was looking to hire someone, and a social media kind of influencer was just, rude and arrogant and whatever. And he's like, nah, no thanks, I don't need this. And they threw like a tantrum, like a pit, like the dude, don't you know who I am kind of deal. And he's like, oh, and I think that's what we're starting to get in a lot of these younger generations. That's kind of what comes with it when you've got these, as I mentioned before, I have a niece. So we watch, she's constantly watching YouTube videos and all these kids that have multi-million-dollar deals reviewing toys on YouTube. Like, it's insane. But can you imagine the nightmare that they probably are when they're in public or with their parents or going to do things? Because when you think you're owed this your whole life, like, you don't appreciate anything,
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think the thing to think about is like it's just sometimes the older people will talk and it's just critical, but not in a bad way. So, and the weird thing that what I feel like the young people, if the smart ones, they should be like, cool, I made it. I was young. I was ambitious. We've all been that. But when I was 20, I still had to like get put through my paces. That was the term. You had to be put through your paces. You had to cut your teeth, all these things. And fine, things have changed. The weird thing is I should sort of be somebody who maybe if you were young and you were popping, maybe you would be like, oh, wow, he's got some cool information. What the young generation does, I think sometimes is they're not willing to listen. And there's this other weird thing where it's like, oh, if you say anything, it's you're a hater. By the way, I'm not. It's not a hater. I'm just trying to educate you on like where I'm trying to go, where I see that you're going, and that's it. So,
but it's also like I'm always a person that has always wanted to strive to think outside the box and to be better and do better. That's how I've always approached everything. So when I'm working with someone that's a little younger and they want to do just enough, I don't settle for just enough. I've never been okay with just enough. Like, I don't want to be a just enough publicist, enough to just appease my client. No, I want to do the best that I can because I want to know that I did my best and I thought outside the box and I did something different. And that's the way that I kind of talk, you know, when I have anybody working with me, it's that same kind of thing. And a lot of times, more than not, I'm just being difficult and I'm just mean and I just, you know, all these things. And it's like, why? Because I want you to be better, because I want you to use your brain. You're smart. Show me you are. Like, how does that, you know?
New rule.
You're right. It's that thing. They know everything. You can't teach them anything. And, you know, and it gets frustrating.
New rule, objective critique from somebody who's been there and didn't do it the way you did it. I feel like there's a value in that. And unfortunately, no one wants to hear it. So yeah, there's a space where they could do what they got to do. I'm going to do what I got to do. Sure, it would be different ball game if I was 20 and I could just like cut the line. That was not my 1980s age bracket. But that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. Look at I'm tearing up. That's all right.
Everything is subjective. And, you know, and I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. It's just appreciate it. Be respectful about it. And just kind of handle yourself with grace, you know?
Yeah. And yeah, be smart too. And so the episode was great for that. And I learn a lot too. That's the thing. I talk a lot of, not shit, but like I talk a lot of like passion. But I'm also like very like, oh, that's right. You know, Julie has to do things she doesn't want to do. You know, we are going to have to do things we don't want to do in our respective fields. Billy made that comment. I think it's season 1, episode 8. We haven't got there yet, but you have to eat shit either way. So I kind of like, it's funny that this show is seeming so like that they're just difficult, but really there's so many great layers. And again, my friend who said that they are unlikable, I says, that's funny because I felt like they were the most relatable thing I've ever seen on television. So what does that say?
Take Sissy Donato down.
Take her down. Take her down. Oh, yeah, she's crazy.
Well, at least their restaurant was a success.
Yes. I know.
But
well,
it was full of children.
I like the way Marilyn has an opinion where she's like, oh, well, at least you were successful at something.
In
some way, you were finally successful on some level. Oh, gosh. But even that doesn't really work. But what I loved about that interaction was more so the push and pull of how great of friends they are, because Billy's balancing his SNL audition, which, you know, he did finally get that through Matthew's agent. And then they're kind of there for each other. Julie's like, okay, I'll go back up the restaurant. Like, I like that. I think that's so sincere, so sweet. And they have each other's back to the fullest, which I love.
Absolutely. And I love that there's always a full circle moment, right? So we learn in the beginning that one of the things that Sissy used to do as a kid was she would throw a tantrum, lay down on the floor and say, I just want to wait to die, or I can't wait to die, or something like that. When she would get frustrated as a kid, and it would really frustrate Julie as a babysitter. So then you come around and she's working the restaurant. It's got a restaurant full of children who she doesn't really like. She's like, children aren't supposed to be here. This is supposed to be an adult restaurant where you eat kids food. Like, what is the problem here?
Yeah, why don't you
And
get
then
that? Why don't you
by
people
the
get
end of it,
take your kids out of here? No one welcomed those kids. And by the way, I only like dogs. Don't assume I like children. You're crazy.
so then by the end of it, the crazy tension of the night, she's on the floor screaming, I just want to die.
The full circle. The full circle.
Full circle, because it always is. And
She
I love that
became
about the show.
Sissy Donato in a whole different way 30 years
Sure
later or
did.
28
She sure
years
did.
later. Yeah.
Yep. And Sissy Donato was always on. So she recorded that little fight.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What'd you think about that?
Well, that little banter that they had, it was, you know, again, it was the way that she approached Julie. Well, what are you trying to do? And when they tell her, you know, she wants to be a stand-up comedian, and she's like, oh, like, that's so cute, which is
yeah,
which again is it's insulting, and it's it's not the way to approach someone. Even if you are thinking that you're in a position to help, you don't kind of talk down to them, right?
It's the availability of access you have to build that career so quickly at such a young age.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like, it's weird. I don't know what you think about this. Well, actually, I should ask you, like this whole thought process, and even the successful people think this a lot now too. The gatekeepers are like, there's no gatekeepers anymore, so you could do it on YouTube. What do you think of that? Because what's funny, like I even listen to like on occasion, mostly Whitney Cummings I do listen to, but like all of that crew, the Theo Vaughn, the Brendan Schwab, like that whole Joe Rogan, basically anyone who loves Joe Rogan, right? All that group. They're all in this vibe, except for Bobby Lee, which I liked, because he was like, no, I'll take a CBS Hawaii 5-0 check like nothing. I believe more so in Bobby Lee's approach, meaning, yes, build your independent stuff, which is, of course, what we're even doing here on difficultpodcasters.com. Hello. Right. But, and we want to have that as an empowering thing, IP, and it feels good to do, I will say. But I don't think I'm going to be one of these people who's ever going to just turn down like, the traditional media is just, it's whack now, I want to tell you, Kelly, I would love to do what we do for a good long time. I want Difficult Podcasters to be successful, and I'm going to put it in the universe. It will be successful. I already know that, because you're gorgeous, you're so sweet, and you're so talented. So I'm just going to be along for the ride. I'm along for the ride. But the point I'm going to make is that, I feel like, why not try to get all the checks? You know what I mean? Like, why shun traditional media? My one dream when I was a kid, although I never did stand up, so that's kind of maybe a problem. But I always wanted to be like a talk show host. Like, that was my dream. Radio was my baby. But so I feel like it would be so weird. I'd be like, cool, I want to be, doing well on the YouTube, of course. That sounded old, right? On the YouTube.
On the YouTube. Back in the day.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, you just never know where these cultures change. You know what I mean? Like, right now, everything's about independent. Screw the traditional landscape. It's like, I don't know, man. I want to keep all doors open, and I want to get all the checks. For all those years I did not get checks, and there's been plenty.
Well, I think too is you should always seize every opportunity. I've always felt that way, that you should always explore every opportunity that is presented to you. That's why I will always take meetings, jump on calls, explore certain things, even if I don't think it's something that I'm interested in necessarily. I always want to see, because you never know where it can go. And like I said, I've said before, I'm a publicist by trade, but I am not the traditional publicist. I don't even know that I know what a traditional publicist is. Like, I've actually.
Is that because you started from the ground up, or why would you?
Honestly, because I didn't go to school for publicity. I didn't really necessarily take very many journalism classes. Like, that just wasn't my thing. I kind of fell into it, and I took my promotions and radio and marketing things I did on the streets doing radio stuff, and I merged it with the admin stuff that you learn. I learned being a publicist being an assistant, and kind of working my way up through, working with different people, and I just combined them, and I would just make new forms of media opportunities.
I love it.
And luckily the companies that I work for allowed me to do that. So I would set up my own opportunities in addition, but I didn't not do the traditional stuff. I just expanded it. So while I was still writing the pitches and sending the pitches and talking to journalists and all of that, on the flip side of it, I was also creating opportunities to bring journalists to. So it was just kind of like, which a lot of firms and stuff, it's more known now to do that than it was when I was doing it, so many years ago, that I was just trying to merge these two positions because I worked for a lot of small companies and we didn't necessarily always have a marketing and a PR department. So we had to be both. So then that's just kind of how my career kind of grew. So I always recommend like exploring every opportunity, checking everything out. And anybody that ever wants to talk to me about stuff, I'll always take the call. I always take the meeting because it can, if nothing else, it can be inspiring listening to other motivated people talk about stuff. I mean, I just did a call, before this today, talking about like building a spirits brand. And it's just like, it motivated me to do some, thinking about doing something completely different, because when you talk to a room full of talented, smart people, it's always motivating.
That is true. I'll send you you have to send me an invoice because I'm getting game today from Kellie. And you are right. And again, I wanted to make sure that this episode had layers. Like, of course, it's going to come across that I'm talking all that shit, but really, I'm just trying to define like my own goals and where they were and where they're going to go and how I got to reshift. And, is the landscape going to go back to traditional media? Like, I want to know it all. Right. And one thing you mentioned, and we could get back to the Billy and SNL and the restaurant. But one thing I wanted to mention is what I love is kind of how I said a second ago, you got to get put through your paces. It's a valuable skill set. So while it could sound like all the old heads are being like haters, they're really not. It's just, I think sometimes when you do it and you've got literally no restrictions, you do whatever you want, maybe you should have people looking at your work. Because we both did radio back in the day. There's an air check. Nothing more humiliating than an air check. You do a radio show and then you sit with the big boss and then they say, press play. And you're going to look at it together. And usually they're like eating like a sandwich because there's always crumbs coming out their mouth. And it's like a little pompous, but not like they're mean. But, if you are self-confidence, deprived, you'll be like, damn, they really hate me. You know what I mean? And I think, and I'm just saying, I think those air checks are valuable because then you could unlock your brain to all these other things. You are such a great example. It's like, you didn't really go into PR, but if you were so focused and you just could do the world on your own, you don't unlock these gifts. That's all I'm saying. So I'm not really a hater at all.
There's something to not necessarily being straight up focused, right? I feel like you have to have some sort of focus, but, kind of being open-minded is not necessarily unfocused. So maybe Julie's a little open-minded versus unfocused.
I'm telling you, in my world, Julie and Billy are actually motivational speakers. With that being said,
I found like my old air check, and I have to tell you, I have like the strongest Texas twang that you could ever imagine.
Oh gosh.
Anyway,
my first radio show was in Bakersfield, and the next one it was in Las Vegas, and the program directors I felt like they were splitting like when they said jump, I said how high, and it ended up being terrible. With that being said, while we're talking about the arts and SNL and this pursuit, I love this quote. We always talk about quotes because ViridianRoad.com does do quote shirts quite beautifully. This is what I love. The less you've done, the more people want to work with you. No experience at all? Here's a TV show. I fucking hate everybody. Oh, when I tell you, it just bled through, Kellie.
I feel that quote. I feel it.
It's funny. I tell my brother sometimes, I'm like, you know what, Richard? I've done what I've done and put through the paces for sure. I'm like, but honestly, I could probably make you hot on sports podcasting faster than I could do what I'm doing, just because that's the way the culture is set up. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to hear a grumpy, like, oh, I didn't make it, like that kind of thing. They just want to hear what they want to hear. I'll give you an example. They want to hear, hello, is the microphone on? I don't know what I'm doing right now. Not that my brother would sound like that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what I'm doing right now. Not that he sounds like that either. You get my example, right, Kellie? I'm failing. Yeah. I'm flailing. Mind you, I have not slept.
I totally get it. But you are lucky when you can have the people around you like Billy and Julie are for each other. And honestly, even Matthew for Billy.
Right.
You know, they made a deal and he helps him get that SNL audition, which was great. You know, as he's looking through headshots and gives him one for his spirit, you know, what did he say for his vision board?
Yeah. Oh my God. It was terrible.
Which is fantastic. And, you know, no matter what, but at the end of the day, he did help him get in the room and he actually got to audition in front of Lorne Michaels, which is a really big deal.
It's nice because their aspirations are so close. They're so different, but you're always going to have the back of a performer to a degree, but it does feel supportive, I guess. And that really is what you saw out of Matthew. I loved it.
Yeah. And you see like Julie sending Billy a text of the two of them. And she's like, oh, you remember when we almost like got it on?
Cute. That was cute.
You know, but it's something that she knows that he needs to give him that extra push to get out there and do his best.
Yeah.
And that is what, you know, true friendship is all about, you know, helping the people close to you. And at the end of the day, if you succeed, I succeed. Right. So it's that mentality that I hope that everybody holds on to and appreciates, because when you're in such a competitive business, it's not easy to find those true friends and those true people that are going to be your cheerleaders and you for them and genuinely mean it.
Yeah, and Susan Lucci could never follow after Bernadette Peters, so there that goes. It was a good scene, and I like to see Billy excited about performing. And I think we mentioned this on one of the earlier episodes. Like he was thrilled with the feedback. You know, we always have this impression that like they're just so bitter, but this is that scene. He goes back to the restaurant, and he's like, "Oh my God, Julie! Like they said this, they said that, and there was something to work with." You know, right. He wasn't sure if he was too old or too young for the thing. Can I tell you too? Julie mentioned, speaking of her unfocused energy, she mentioned that she always dreamed of being the SNL host, the musical act, the 6 different things she said under the sun.
Yes.
Can I ask you?
The cast member, the host, and the musical act.
Everything. Running the party after. My question to you is, have you ever had that dream of being an SNL host? Like, did that ever like feed through your soul?
No.
It
has not personally been one of my personal dreams. No, although I love SNL. Oh, I've watched it for years and I love this sketch comedy. And I think it takes an extreme talent to be able to do that in front of a live audience. I definitely respect anyone and everyone that's been able to do that. But no, I actually went to film school. I wanted to make movies. I've always dreamed of actually being in movies and writing my own stuff. And recently I found like these old short stories that I had written.
Oh, wow.
It's funny to like, you know, look at now, but that was always my thing. And I just happened to fall into radio and went on this whole different path. And which I don't regret at all. Everything's kind of happens for a reason, but that was kind of my vision board.
That's amazing. And that's the good parts of doing independent production, you know, the YouTube stuff or whatever you want to call it. Because though we're just doing the podcast at this stage, there's no telling to where you take this and take that and start mixing and mingling your other skill sets. Okay, so I'm going to say radio was my baby. Like by the time I was 5 years old, that's all I wanted to do. But secretly, as I've learned in therapy, I think I wanted to be an actor more so, but I was a little too chicken shit to do it. So we'll get to that in another episode. But I remember taking a bunch of improv classes and not being the best at it. I think specifically because at the time I was, let me tell you what is a challenging thing, Kelly. Closeted to pretend you have this thing and then you're also improving. So you got to be free from that. Like it's a lot of busy work. Made me good on the radio. I will tell you, I was doing the Rick D's radio show at the time, so it did help. I will say.
Yeah.
But anyways, I will say that as a kid, when the saxophone plays at the end, I was always like, oh my gosh, like how can I work towards getting to this opportunity to whatever it would take to sort of be of the skill set to do that. Mind you, this is not one of those things where I'm discrediting actual actors. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying what a dream it would be for me. And I'm going to put it in the universe because that's what this podcast is about. I am not too old to say, I mean, I'm 40 and I'm flourishing by a thread.
Never too old. Age is just a number, right?
And I have been so attracted to what it is to see The person doing the monologue at the beginning, even the opening credits drove me wild. In part, I was a California boy. Like I've been a California boy as a child, and New York has been like part of like there was not a time in my life that I never didn't dream of New York City, and I wonder if that's a contributing factor. So I just thought that was cool that Julie was like, I've always wanted to do this. I was like, well, not to be like misdirected, but I always was like, what a dream that would be. So I'm just gonna say, like, you just like never know.
I think I did theater and acting class and all that, but I really wanted to. I've always been such a creator, and I want to make things, and I would much more rather like to make something full circle. That's like my big dream. I would never say no to being part of something, but if I had it, if I could do it. I mean, which I'm not saying I can't, but if I decided to, then if I decided to be successful in that arena,
you just have to put your mind to it and like believe in yourself. Like that's all it'll take.
That's what I want to do. That would be my thing. So I've got tons of little scripts written out that maybe I don't know, maybe I'll put them on Twitter and take little excerpts out, and you guys can tell me what you think of my writing skills.
I like it. Anything else within the episode? I love that we saw Rosanna Scotto again. I always used to love watching Rosanna and Greg back in the day. And it turned out that Arthur looked just like somebody. Yeah, he didn't look like Arthur, which was probably really good for Marilyn because Marilyn always thinks he's a drunk anyway. So big shock.
I love when Denise walks in. So who's that pedophile? My sister's boyfriend. I mean, my daughter's boyfriend.
Everyone's like, okay, it makes because
Carol, she's like,
Denise doesn't like Red anyway. Denise is like, she's not into Julie. She calls her Red, and she don't really take her seriously.
Keep your ginger friend out of here.
I do like the part where Julie and Billy are trying to figure out how we get the kids out of here. And it was like, oh, what do we do? What do we do? They don't like the dentist. They don't like this. They don't like that. What's the most frightening thing? Oh, the New York City news.
And lo and behold, it was.
It was the most frightening thing. It cleared those kids right on out. Oh, it was a good episode. Yeah. I liked it. I enjoyed the episode, Kelly.
Definitely a good episode. Revisiting this world is a lot of fun. So I'm excited that we're doing it, and I say it all the time.
Well, that wraps it up. ViridianRoad.com. ViridianRoad.com is the sponsor. We're so appreciative of that. We love doing the show. Difficult Podcasters, episode 5, which is season 1, episode 5, but we're going to take it all the way, 28 episodes, and then I don't know. We'll do it all. We'll take on every difficult TV show you could imagine. My name is Ronnie Jr. RandomlyRJR.com. And Kelly, oh, that's right. I guess that's it for us. Have a good rest of your week, and I'll chat with you next week. It's our little therapy, Kelly.
Bye.
Bye.